So this is the front wheel and mudguard assembly. For this you need to use spacers. The size and type of these spacers are listed in the parts section. I use 4 of them each side. They're a millimeter thick, and they're I think they're, it depends what size you're using for the front, what size of rod. I'm using a 10 here, I think. So the inside diameter needs to be 10. I think they're a couple of mil thick, so wide. But the information will be in the drawing. So you have to get the spacers on each side, and the mudguard sits on top of the spacers and pushes out the way. So it's really just a case of getting it into the front forks. The mudguard has been slotted to specifically work with the front fork setup. So I'm just really showing you here how to try and cobble it together. It's a bit tricky. For the front forks, there's no washer to be used. They're a bit narrow, so just the nut is big enough. It's fine. Just lining up the parts and trying to get it to go all in a oneer. Or you could have the front forks assembled and then try and get the shims in. I did this before by gluing them all together and then just using a pair of needle nose pliers to put them in. But I'm doing it the other way on this time, putting it together and then installing it out thereafter. Either way is a pain, so the easiest way seems to put the pieces in first and then just use the 2 end fork pieces, push them all in. You can see here as well in this shot that I've got the steel washers just where it's going between plastic and metal. So I've added these in just to reduce the wear, because there's a lot of pressure that's put down onto this plastic part on the inside, and eventually it will wear and you'll need to either reprint the part here that you see, the plastic, or you'll have to just print a shim to go in, a sacrificial shim. But for this I'm just testing out. I think I put 3 in just to see what the wear rate would be. I'm assuming that they won't wear. There won't be any wear at all, unless the washers get jammed together. The part I'm holding and hitting with the hammer, that's a socket, and when you assemble it into the steering cylinder, there's a plastic bit that sits within that socket, and that's what turns when you turn the wheel. So everything you see here turns, but it turns within us as a socket against another plastic part. You'll maybe have seen that on the other video where I'm assembling the main sort of frame together and adding a part on the cylinder at the top and bottom. The top is what hangs the frame of the scooter off of the cylinder, and the part at the bottom is is the part that goes into the socket that I'm putting these fork parts into. Once the holes are aligned, just push the rods right through. They might need hit with a hammer or turned with a drill. Just get them in and get the nuts tight. Don't over tighten them. These ones don't have washers for them. On this setup I used a ball bearings within the ETWOW rear wheel. The rear wheel you can pick up as a spare. You can get it off AliExpress. I think they're about £13. But I used, instead of a smaller bearing, I used a bearing with a 10mm inside diameter for this, but you can use an 8, it's fine. I can't remember why I ended up using a smaller one. I think it was because one of the ones inside were broken. Because I think I got it second hand. Here's me just grasping the end with pliers, like what you have to do for most of these rods when you're building up the frame, as the end just spins. But make sure you've got a nut on it already, so that when you take the nut off it rethreads the rod. Don't just do it and then try and put a nut on, because the nut will not go on because you'll have damaged the threads. So put the nut on first, then grasp the thread and tighten up. So we're just showing it on and spinning. Now this is where I send the pole up through the cylinder. It's me just pushing it in, and not very good shot here, but all you're doing is pushing it up. You'll have already applied these plastic parts at the bottom and the top, so you just send it up through, and then the socket will go in. And then that enables the wheel to rotate, or the whole steering column to rotate.